As busy as our day-to-day lives are, somehow they always get busier at the time we want them to slow down the most. During the holidays. For a lot of people, myself included, the winter holiday season is one of the few times in their life when they're expected to take a break from their work and spend most of their time resting, relaxing, and catching up with family and friends. In reality, it doesn't always work this way. Winter holidays may be a magical time as children, but as we get older, it's a time that gets filled with scheduling stresses, financial burdens, and the most dreaded adult word of all, responsibility. And the DuckTales Christmas episode somehow kind of addresses all of that. The review of this DuckTales Christmas episode may be coming out after the holiday itself, but I just couldn't let the season pass without talking about the holiday that helped inspire Scrooge McDuck himself. This is Last Christmas. It's pretty hard to miss Uncle Scrooge's ties to Christmas. Not only did he make his first appearance in Carl Barks' classic Donald Duck story, Christmas on Bear Mountain, but, well, his name is Scrooge. You know, like Ebenezer. He even shares a ton of character traits with his namesake. Just like Charles Dickens's Ebenezer Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge is a stingy, business-focused, and sometimes shockingly callous man. So, it's no surprise that when Disney decided to make an audio play of A Christmas Carol in 1974, they decided to cast Scrooge McDuck in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge. In fact, this 1974 audio play was the first time Alan Young ever voiced the character, and he may not have been the first person to play Scrooge McDuck, but he's definitely, probably the most iconic. Alan Young is the voice that became Scrooge McDuck. He'd go on to voice Scrooge in the feature animation adaptation of A Christmas Carol in the 1980s, in the parks, and in the original DuckTales TV series, video games, and more.
And a bah humbug to you!
Bah humbug.
He said it!
Mixing up Scrooge with the classic Charles Dickens tale is an obvious fit, but casting Scrooge as Ebenezer, that's been done before. And if we've learned anything about the new DuckTales, it's that it doesn't like to retread old ground. It does things its own way. Instead, Disney's DuckTales reboot asked a different question. What would happen if the Charles Dickens's ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future made a mistake, and instead of visiting Ebenezer Scrooge in the 1800s, they accidentally haunted Scrooge McDuck? Before this Christmas episode even started, DuckTales answered that, showing us a Scrooge who isn't haunted by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, but as someone who made friends with them. It's a story twist that's only really possible because of one of the key differences between Scrooge McDuck of DuckTales and his Dixonian namesake. Ebenezer needed to learn compassion for others, but Scrooge already has it. Instead of being tormented by spirits, Uncle Scrooge travels through time and space with the trio of friendly festive fandoms every year to celebrate the best Christmas has to offer. And in a way, it's the most relatable story about the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future I've ever seen. Scrooge McDuck is kind of the ultimate adult. He's smart, responsible, and successful, but achieving those things came at a price. Being the richest duck in the world is a feat that's only achieved by being unimaginably busy and shouldering incredible responsibility. Scrooge doesn't need a lesson about life, he needs a break, and the ghosts are happy to provide that. In the chaos that is the modern holiday season of shopping, work, and social obligations, a magical night off that defies the restrictions of the short, hectic season sounds like a dream come true. And for the most part, it is, but there wouldn't be much of a story to tell here if everything went to plan. When Dewey stumbles upon Scrooge's Christmas secret, he winds up hitching a ride back to the past, kicking off a heartwarming story about family, friendship, and amazing vocal cameos. Oh, and spoilers. Magical, heartwarming adventures full of spoilers if you haven't seen this episode yet. Watch out. This year, the ghost of Christmas past takes Scrooge back to one of McDuck Industries' first big holiday parties, hosted at Scrooge's own mansion.
Young me, old me.
It seems like a good idea, but in reality, it's just a shortcut back to the exact same responsibilities Scrooge is trying to escape in the first place. But at least we get to see what Duckworth was like before he became a ghost. Dewey may have hitched a ride back to the past, but he doesn't make it all the way to Scrooge's old holiday party. Instead, he falls out of the time stream sometime in the 1990s, where he comes face to face with a younger version of the man who raised him, Donald Duck. Scrooge's time travel adventure may be fun, but meeting this teenage Donald Duck is absolutely the highlight of this episode. This isn't just a smaller version of the character we already know and love, but an awkward, brooding youngster with a grunge rock obsession, a guitar, and a set of 1990s bangs perfectly designed for angsty flips. Seeing this awkward, weird Donald who's trying to rebel and be cool isn't just fun, but it's kind of a nice reminder that what we know as our parents or the people who raised us aren't always the people we know them as. When they were younger, they might have been cool or hip or in a band and a completely different person entirely. And this version of Donald goes from fun to absolutely delightful once we hear him talk, because he has the exact same voice as Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby did back in the original DuckTales.
Who are you? How much did you hear? Did you like it? Answer me!
Bringing back Russi Taylor to voice a 1990s adolescent duck is a stroke of nostalgic genius. In the world of DuckTales, Donald is really the only person with a quack voice, and Russi's classic take on young ducks has just enough of that Donald Duck quality while still being completely intelligible. It also makes you wonder, in this version of DuckTales, it seems Donald's had this more quacky voice his whole life, and it seems to get harder to understand as he gets older. And I don't know if it's intentional that way by using Russi Taylor to be his young voice, but it's kind of fun to imagine that his short-temperedness sort of grew out of him getting older and older and harder to understand. And that kind of ties into his broody teenage self too. Either way, young Donald is a delight in this story, and he and Dewey venture off into the woods around the mansion to find Della Duck. This is a younger version of Della, of course, but it's also the most we've ever seen of the character all at once, and more importantly, it's a huge moment for Dewey, because even though it's a child version of herself in the past, this is technically the first time he's ever met his own mother. He can't tell her who he is, because of time travel, but it's fun to see them share a small adventure together and learn the true meaning of Christmas. Speaking about learning the true meaning of Christmas, we should talk about the other amazing voice that's in this episode. The voice of Christmas Past, Jack McBrayer. You may also know him as Wander from Wander Over Yonder and Fix-It Felix Jr. from Wreck-It Ralph. He has one of the nicest, sweetest, and most genuine sounding voices in the world, which is kind of perfect, because the ghost of Christmas Past is actually this episode's villain. Well, sort of. When Scrooge thinks that Christmas Past is trying to teach him a lesson about the true meaning of the holiday, the spirit gets frustrated and takes a turn for the worst. He's tired of always teaching people lessons only to watch them celebrate Christmas without him next year. So he's plotting to trap Scrooge in the history of the holiday so they can celebrate Christmas forever as friends. It's a totally bizarre take on the character, but it's delightful to hear the wonderful voice of Jack McBrayer try and take a villainous turn, if only for a minute. Still, even at his most threatening, Jack McBrayer is just too darn charming to be a scary villain. There's a lot to say about how these two storylines converge and how Scrooge and Dewey meet up again and how things resolve, but I'm actually not going to get into it. This is a wonderful Christmas story, and it's better that you just watch it for yourself. This is the perfect holiday episode for this reimagining of DuckTales. It's not just a winter episode that pays homage to what came before it. It's a story that offers a fresh look at Scrooge's relationship to Christmas. If you're looking for an unconventional holiday special that has roots in a Christmas classic, but treads on new ground, this one's for you. If you're just a fan of the original DuckTales and want an unexpected blast from the past, you're also going to love this episode. And if you're some crazy person who's just always wanted to hear a Christmas version of the DuckTales theme song, this also, unbelievably, has you covered.
Tales of Christmas past and Yuletide DuckTales.
As for me, I just want to thank you all for an amazing 2018. This channel has grown so much over the past few years, and it's been a complete joy sharing nerdy love of DuckTales, old cartoons, comic books, and video games with you all. So, as always, take it easy, Internet, and have a happy holiday and a happy new year.